It's the most wonderful time of the year. I'll say it right now. When Kevin Durant, Dwight Howard, and Chris Paul get bounced out of the playoffs, it's time that the media start to give them their fair share of criticism the way they used to LeBron. All right, it's your boy Kshillings coming at you again. I missed you, YouTube. I haven't been able to make a video. I made a couple, but I ended up deciding not to upload them because there were some production errors or whatever, and also a couple speech errors or whatever. And I didn't feel like, and they were pretty long videos, so I decided to go ahead and re-record them, and I haven't got a chance to do that yet. Anyway, it's besides the point. I'm coming at you with your playoffs, NBA playoffs 2014 preview, okay? And also my prediction of how it's going to go. I'm going to come back round by round as my picks fall apart and do updated analysis or whatever. So, starting off in the Eastern Conference, all right? I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Eastern Conference, we have the Indiana Pacers versus the Atlanta Hawks, all right? Not going to be much of a series. A lot of media outlets have been talking about Atlanta giving Indiana problems and matchup issues and stuff like that. I don't really subscribe to that belief. Really don't think Indiana will have much problems with Atlanta. Atlanta, in my opinion, doesn't even really deserve to be in the playoffs this year. They were pretty bad all year long, so it was just not a good look or whatever. So, moving on to Chicago versus the Washington Wizards. All right. Now, the Chicago Bulls will win this series. I feel like Washington's a young team. They'll win this series in 5 or 6 games. As far as the Chicago Bulls are concerned, not going to be too much of an issue with the Washington Wizards. Even though it's going to be entertaining with John Wall and Bradley Beal and Trevor Ariza and all those guys, but I don't see too much going on there. We also have the Miami Heat versus the Charlotte Bobcats. I think the Bobcats will get a game. I don't think the Heat will sweep them, but it's going to be a quick series. The Bobcats will get one game, and that'll do good for their psyche going forward. But no big threat there. Toronto versus Brooklyn. Now, a lot has been made in the past couple of days about Brooklyn actually seeking out Toronto and tanking some games just to get them. If that's the case, I don't know how. That means Brooklyn's pretty confident that they can knock off Toronto. They're the number 3 seed for a reason. They've been playing. I haven't got to watch them a lot this year, but they've been playing good. They've been consistent all year as far as winning games. It's not like they had real big downs or whatever, or else they'd be a lower seed. A lot of young talent. They don't have any experience though. Very little experience. So if they lose the battle, it'll be because of that. All right. So moving on to the Western Conference here. So we have the notorious San Antonio Spurs. Now, at this point, what more can you say about the Spurs? Every single year, they're in one of the top seeds. They're number 1 most of the time. There was an incredible stat. I think it was saying that Tim Duncan has only missed the playoffs 1 time in his 18-year career, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I believe that's the stat. I'll have to go back and check it just to make sure. But it was something ridiculous like that. And I think that year he was injured. Just outstanding career all across, outstanding organization. They're going to get the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I must admit, this matchup makes me sad because I wanted Dallas to face OKC as the 7th seed because I think they could have knocked off OKC, to be very honest with you. They match up very well with OKC, and it would make for a very entertaining series. So that made me sad that Dallas lost and are going to have to face the Spurs, which almost certainly means that they're going home. I mean, I really don't see any legitimate way they could beat the Spurs. They'll win 2 games or so, but the Spurs will advance. Now, next we have the Rockets versus the Trailblazers. This is like the only series that in the West that I'm 100% sure about. The Rockets will take out the Blazers in 5 or 6 games. The Blazers have not been what they were early in the season. And even early in the season, they were good as far as to watch, entertaining and stuff, but they seemed a bit hollow. They always seemed a bit hollow to me. I never really believed Even though I thought as long as if they got better, they'd be a contender or a tough out in the playoffs. But I always thought they were a bit hollow. I'd like to see more from their bench players. What's the guy from Kansas? He also played on the Rockets. He also played on the Sacramento Kings. Thomas Robinson. I really want to see more from him. He has little spots here and there where he shows what he can do, but it's not consistent enough. Rockets in 5 or 6, easy. Um, OKC versus Memphis. I want to pick Memphis really bad to win this series. I really want to pick Memphis to win the series in 7 games. Um, it's a good matchup. Memphis will put the defense to you. Oh, they have a lot of long defenders as well, so they have a lot of people to throw at Kevin Durant. It's not like they're going to be completely outwitted by his size or whatever. Um, so I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and go with OKC anyway. Even though I really, 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 for the record, I want to pick Memphis to beat OKC, but I'm going to go ahead and go with OKC. Um, and then the Clippers and the Warriors, probably the best series of the first round. Um, the Warriors are dealing with too many injuries right now. I would have normally picked the Warriors to get hot against the Clippers and beat them. But I'm going to go with the Clippers. The Warriors are too injured. Bogut and David Lee, even though I don't love David Lee, I feel like he's too soft and I feel like he doesn't play defense. But he's a big part of their team, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the Clippers to beat them. All right, so going back to the Eastern Conference for my predictions for the second round. Indiana versus the Chicago Bulls. This is what I wanted to see. I did not want Miami to have the first seed. Not that I think the Bulls could beat Miami. It's quite the opposite, actually. But the Bulls will knock the Indiana Pacers off. If this goes how I expect it to go, which it will, because there's no doubt in this area right here. There's no risk or whatever. Indiana will beat Atlanta. Chicago will beat the Wizards. Indiana will not beat Chicago in the second round. Chicago will beat Indiana in 7 games, and it will be a very dirty, grinded out series, and I will love every minute of watching every single game of that series because that is the matchup I've been waiting for in the playoffs. All right. And next we have a lot of hype. Miami versus Brooklyn. A lot of hype behind the series, all really for nothing. Miami in 5. I won't even give it 6 games. Brooklyn, I've tried to watch Brooklyn a lot this year, but I've never got through a game. I don't love even though I'm very happy for Jason Kidd and his success. I was a big fan of Jason Kidd always. But I do not believe that Brooklyn Nets team has what as much as they think they have what it takes to beat Miami. I don't believe they have what it takes to beat Miami. Not even close. 5 games, Miami. And then we have in the West, San Antonio versus the Houston Rockets. I believe San Antonio will defeat the Houston Rockets in about 6 games or so. Contrary to the regular season, because the Rockets have given San Antonio a lot of trouble all season, but I think when it counts, the Spurs will adjust and beat the Rockets in 6 games. And OKC and the Clippers. I do not believe OKC will win a championship. Contrary to what everybody believes, everybody thinks Kevin Durant is the new guy, and everybody wants to crown Kevin Durant king of the NBA and put LeBron on the ground. It's not gonna happen. Kevin Durant, as great of a scorer he is bar none probably one of the greatest scorers this league has ever seen. But he's not a better full basketball player than one LeBron James, okay? And LeBron James is still the king of the NBA and will be for the next couple years. And this guy, KD, the second best player in the NBA, will get defeated by this guy, Chris Paul, the third best player in the NBA. Chris Paul needs it more at this point in his career. Chris Paul is, approaching 30? Approaching 29, something like that. He's getting up there in age, man. How much longer is he not going to win a championship? He needs to win. In my opinion, him and Kevin Durant should be getting all kinds of criticism. If you think about how LeBron was before he won the championship, even before he left Cleveland. The media could not get off of him for a second. If he loses in whatever round, he's a failure. He's the worst basketball player. He doesn't match up to any. He doesn't. He live up to any hype. All kinds of crap that they talk about him. But these two guys, for these two respective teams, are gonna start to feel that heat, along with Dwight Howard as well. So, but anyway, I believe Chris Paul will will his team because I just feel like they have more weapons than the Thunder. I feel like the Thunder have two. They have the best scorer, best offensive threat in the NBA, and they have probably one of the most relentless players, pit bull of a basketball player, Russell Westbrook. I love what Russell Westbrook does on the court, but I still think the Clippers will knock them off in 7 games in the second round. All right, so moving on to the third round, the Western Conference Finals. Chicago, Miami. Chicago does not match up well against Miami. Good defense, but I mean, Miami can do what they want to against Chicago. They've always been able to. Derrick Rose or not. Even though I have Chicago beating Indiana, and if I would have had Indiana versus Miami, it would have been a 7-game series. I have Miami beating Chicago in 5 games. Just because of that. All right. Now, and this is going to be like this. As long as Chicago faces Miami, they're never going to really be able to beat Miami in the 7-game series, no matter how good Tom Thibodeau or, even with Derrick Rose, they're not going to beat Miami in the 7-game series. But next year, that conversation can change. Because if Carmelo Anthony from the New York Knicks, who aren't even in the playoffs this year, was to join the Chicago Bulls and they didn't have to give up too much to make it happen, I believe the same Chicago Bulls would be the team to finally deny LeBron James the championship next year. But as of this year, Miami will beat Chicago in the third round of the playoffs. The Western Conference Finals. And then we have the good old San Antonio Spurs versus the Los Angeles Clippers. In this series, I have the Clippers advancing over the Spurs. I just feel like I don't even remember what their season series was this year, but if they face, I feel like the Clippers are just too athletic. They have a lot of youth, but at the same time, they have a lot of experience. They can stretch the floor. They have a lot of shooters. Great coach versus great coach. Doc Rivers versus Popovich, heavyweight match. But just personal preference in this case, I'm just going to pick the Clippers because I really want to see Chris Paul finally cross over and get at least one shot at a championship. Whether it's as futile as it may be, but I do want to see him get that opportunity. And then, if we were to have the Miami Heat and the Clippers in the finals, I would have Miami beating the Clippers in 6 games. And Miami being the champion, LeBron James winning another MVP, and ultimately being a 3-time champion, and basically cementing a vast piece of his legacy as one of the greatest players to ever pick up a basketball. So those are my playoff picks for this year. I went out on a limb on some of them, and I didn't go out on quite the limb I wanted to with Memphis. This is the series I'm going to be looking at because I do think Memphis could beat OKC. Even though I didn't pick them, I do believe Memphis might beat OKC. Anyway, that's my video. In the next round, I'm going to come back and revisit this chart, and we'll see where I was right and where I was wrong. All right? Thanks for watching. Like the video, comment, subscribe to the page, people, and see you next time. All right?